Hey everybody! So, who's excited for Borderlands 4?
Not me.
Ah, come on guys, where's the excitement at? Randy Pitchford really needs this game to sell a bajillion copies, otherwise he's gonna have to go and find another job, and we all know how that's going to go.
So this one time it was really weird. This guy, there's this account I followed called Science. Anybody follow Science? There was this one tweet that the guy made, and I want to read it to you because I'm curious what you guys think about it. First woman on the moon. Houston, we have a problem. What? Never mind. What's the problem? Nothing. Please tell us. I'm fine. That was the guy's tweet. Now look, I love a good joke. I mean, but this was supposed to be my science feed, you know? And so I replied to, I unfollowed the guy, and I said, God damn it, sexist much, have to unfollow now. Because it was kind of sexist. And I've gotten a lot of hate over the years. I've never, ever.
What the fuck am I doing here? And like, who are these people?
I literally just replied to the guy. And so I'm going to play a song, and this song's called The Bigot Song. Nobody likes talking to... You know what? I'm going to sing it an octave higher, because you guys are worth it. Nobody likes a bigot unless he's crying. Boo-hoo. Nobody likes the CIA, always spying and running right-wing paramilitary death squads. Nobody likes a bigot unless he's crying. Boo-hoo, like a big baby. Boo-hoo, well. Most people hate bigots because they're assholes, right? Judgmental agents of fear. You know who probably hates bigots even more? Who, Randy? Themselves. When shedding a tear and crying like a gator.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
God damn, man, that's rough. Still, at least that's more entertaining than that PowerPoint presentation about immigration at Gamescom a couple of weeks ago.
At Gamescom, they're currently showcasing a game about illegally crossing into the USA and processing the trauma from being a minority with real audio clips from real illegals. I have to see this.
My pronouns are she, her, and
shit!
Randy Pitchford is my favorite games industry clown. Maybe it sounds a bit too demeaning to hear me call him a clown, especially if you're not in on his lore, but trust me guys, this dude is something else. I was watching videos dogging on this man over a decade ago already, and over time, things involving him only kept getting worse. We had weird funding allegations, we had the whole Colonial Marines thing where it was alleged that he diverted funds from that game into Borderlands, which was a big problem because when Colonial Marines came out, it was pretty much broken. We had royalty and payment disputes with developers working on Borderlands 3 and also some voice actors. Like Borderlands 3, for instance, made a bunch of money. I think that's part of the reason why Randy Pitchford has such a massive head going into Borderlands 4, like his ego is inflated, despite the movie having been a critical and commercial failure. But yeah, despite the money it made, the developers working at Gearbox were getting below average wages, with the expectation of large bonuses later on, but allegedly those bonuses never came because of Randy, and he ended up telling his own people to quit if they were unhappy. And with the voice actors, well, Randy said that their issues came from both of them declining to reprise their roles in the game, but both of the voice actors in question, Troy Baker and David Eddings, pinned the blame on Gearbox for not paying them adequately. And speaking of voice actors, he also has weird assault allegations from David Eddings where he claims that Randy shoved him at the 2017's Game Developers Conference. There's some weird shit with a flash drive too, where he left a very important flash drive at a restaurant which held very sensitive Gearbox documents, and I swear man, I love this guy. This is why he's the best. Korn. This idiot carried gooning material with him on a damn work flash drive, and the content itself wasn't even normal Korn. It was some weird shit. And then later on in a podcast, Randy Pitchford just outright says that what was on that flash drive wasn't illegal, it was just barely legal, and it wasn't for gooning. No, he would never do that. It was actually material for him to study because it showed a magic trick with apparently a lot of water. Anyway... Oh yeah, in case you weren't aware, Randy isn't just a terrible game director and CEO, he's also a magician. That's why he's so interested in magic tricks. Many of these claims ended up unresolved or just kind of disappeared, because basically what usually happens after they're made is lawyers are called onto the field, some legal threats and actions go back and forth, legal proceedings take place, and then the matters mysteriously vanish by getting settled quietly behind closed doors with non-disclosure agreements on top. There's many more stories that could be told of the man, the myth, the legend Randy Pitchford, but we're here today to focus on Borderlands 4's terrible marketing campaign. Because Borderlands 4 is almost out, and I wasn't kidding in the intro. He has been really hamming this game up a lot. This game needs to sell desperately. And one of the things that has made the road here funny is that, well, Randy Pitchford doesn't know when to shut up. He doesn't realize how much of a detriment he is to the games that he makes. Never mind the games themselves, just his presence and the things that he says end up hurting him and his company, even when he's not currently involved in controversies. He'll just create his own if he has to, and sometimes I do wonder if it is actually on purpose, just to get people talking about him and his games, kind of with that mentality of all publicity is good publicity, or if it's really an accident because of him being too desperate to just keep quiet until the game releases. Because thus far, just with Borderlands 4 alone, his approach to marketing has essentially been this. Number 1, whine on stage about how difficult things are in game development and how the game might end up being $80. Number 2, get backlash from that comment and make it even worse by using the Diablo Immortals approach.
Goodness. Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this just strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Except instead of do you not have phones, Randy Pitchford's thing was do you not have money? If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to have money. Number 3, get even more backlash from that because, well, of course, even the soy community came out and got mad at it. Like with Nintendo, for example, a lot of what word do I use here to describe these people? Man, this is tough. Let's just say it. Retards. Some retards, they came out defending it. They were like, hey, Nintendo, $80, that's a good thing because their games are pure value. And I didn't even see any of this narrative for Borderlands 4. I'm sure there was like a couple of rage baiters on Twitter saying it. I mean, of course, there's always one or two morons, but it wasn't a whole thing. It wasn't a narrative. Like, people were not defending this thing. They were attacking it. Pretty much the only people who were fine with it were game journalists, because game journalists are corporate bootlickers. They're not here for us, they're here for the companies. So a lot of backlash came from that, and his response was split in two. First, he addressed the issue by sharing a clip from a PAX East panel that he participated in, where he got all down to earth and serious with us, telling us again how difficult it is, how tough it's been in the industry. Game budgets are going up. He also mentioned the tariffs, even though we know that that hasn't had any effect at all, especially on him and the development of his game going back years now. I think it was also here that he mentioned that Borderlands 4 has doubled the budget of Borderlands 3, which is nuts, because that lands this game at around $300 million. And I don't know about you guys, but I find this to be totally insane for a looter shooter franchise that never took itself too seriously. It's insane to me that this game is so incredibly difficult and complex to build that the production cost climbs all the way up into the territory of those super expensive Sony projects. Like, at some point you just have a problem in your company. You're spending money irresponsibly, I don't know in what. I'm not a fucking auditor, but you got a problem. And you can't just pin that problem on the consumer. You can't go, hey guys, so this game's coming out, it's gonna be $80 because I fucked up during the development of this game and I spent way too much money. I mean, you can try to do that. It's a stupid ass idea, but you can try to do that, it's just not going to fly. But anyway, after a bit of whining, he said he genuinely did not know how much it was going to cost and it was out of his hands completely. It was all on the side of the publisher.
What would the game's price be? That's an interesting one. I don't know this.
The price, really, now? I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. It's going to be the people at the publishing house that decide that. And if it is cheaper, then maybe we'll sell you that mini map that you guys want, but we'll develop later. How bad do you want that? $10? I don't know. I'm just kidding. Or am I? I'm just kidding. Or am I?
But then on social media, he pulls this dumbass move of offering Tiny Tina Wonderlands for free on PC with a condescending message, where he just couldn't help himself, not to mention people not having money, and writing free an obnoxious amount of times. For our real fans who may be cost sensitive, poor people, the very awesome and incredibly fun it's actually dogshit, smash hit, questionable, video game Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is free this week on the Epic Games Store. You know, the one that nobody wants to download. Please enjoy this free gift by grabbing your free copy here. Free! Oh brother, as a guy said in the comments, and well, just get a PR manager or get out of the internet. This was honestly a bad move in general because this game is terrible, dude. Like, I'm gonna be real, guys, there's only a handful of games that I regretted spending money on. It's a very rare thing. I mean, of course, before YouTube. Now with YouTube, I buy games to cover them, and so sometimes that doesn't happen. But before, I was always super stingy and I only bought things that I was 100% sure about. Or at least nearly 100% sure about. In recent memory, I only remember two major regrets. Gotham Knights, which I got at around $27 or something, or maybe 23, and I was disappointed. Eventually it grew on me a little bit, but yeah, still. And then this game, which was so incredibly bad that it made me totally forgive myself for Gotham Knights. Like, holy shit, this game is bad. It is so bad that I genuinely felt betrayed by the content creators I watched reviewing the damn thing, and passing along a far more positive idea of it than it actually was. Not one content creator mentioned how much worse this was in comparison to the Borderlands games. Not one mentioned the hazardous levels of cringe in the characters and the dialogues and the story, among many other issues. Offering this game for free is actually a huge mistake when trying to generate hype for Borderlands 4. You see, I can still go back and play Borderlands 3 and have a decent time. In fact, I went and played it a bit to have some spare footage for this video, and despite the story, characters and writing being awful, at least the gameplay is fun, but playing Wonderlands would only make me wary, like it would make me not want to buy anything that the studio is making. Also, there was another backlash with him offering games such as Borderlands 2, this time not because of a condescending tone or because the game was bad, but because of updates to the terms of service from the publishers, raising massive concerns about data collection and restrictions on modding. This got people review bombing the games on Steam, calling the game spyware after the update. Anyway, where were we? Number 3? Okay, let's go then. Number 4, because of course we're not done yet. Are you kidding me? Randy Pitchford is going for the world record on this one. So number 4, this idiot went on an interview thing with Games Radar over at Gamescom and said that actually they should be charging $200 for the game. This guy lives in such a deluded world that he genuinely thinks the publisher could charge $200 for this shit and we would buy it. Not him personally though. Oh no sir, if it was up to him, he would give the game away for free. That way everyone would play it. He's just such a nice man. He's such a virtuous, upstanding, he's a saint. He really is. Whatever he's got in his flash.
This is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
Well, it doesn't matter. This man is a saint, and anyone who says otherwise will be receiving a letter from my lawyer. But you know, it is what it is. He can't give it away for free because, you know, this is a business. That's not how the business works. True. However, he follows that up with, but the value is there, and on that he's just delusional. He thinks you can charge $200 for something just because you can spend like 1,000 hours in it doing the same goddamn generative bullshit over and over again while farming for virtually endless loot because of the way that the Borderlands game's loot system works. But this just isn't applicable in a general way. I know there's guys out there with thousands of hours in these games, that's why I even said that the game has so much worth, but most people don't do this at all. And even if they did, it isn't how the game pricing should work. Hell, it's not even that it shouldn't work this way, it's that it outright just doesn't. I mean, just look around. For example, how much would we have to pay for something like Minecraft, where there's always something more that you could improve? Some other place on the big world map that you could go and colonize, build some more farms, some more factories, mine for more resources, build another castle, maybe build, I don't know, a brothel for Randy Pitchford to come in and study some magic performances. And look at Ubisoft games, which spent the last 10 years doing their best to make huge worlds filled with bloat just to artificially inflate the amount of hours that people spent playing them. Not through quality content, but through garbage like yet another little cave here, yet another little tower to climb over there, yet another fort, yet another little enemy outpost, yet another, you know, randomly generated quest hotspot. Fuck, remember Assassin's Creed Odyssey? I swear, every other time that I found one of these side quest hotspots, I was supposed to go out and kill more sharks. I'm pretty sure I single-handedly drove the bastards into extinction. And then another thing worth noting here is how this way of designing games is not good. I think more and more what people want is quality content, not content that overstays its welcome. People want to start something and finish it in a reasonable amount of time, and they preferably want that something to be of quality. Tell a nice story, have a few memorable characters, some striking locations, some good, worthwhile moments, and in the case of this game here, Borderlands, an incentive to replay so we can try out other playable characters. What usually happens to me in these games is there's so much bloat, so much garbage, and it's such a grindy experience to try and get XP to level up your character, especially in the beginning, I mean throughout the entire journey honestly, that I really need to think through which character I'm selecting, because it's unlikely that I'll want to put myself through the painful early game all over again, where the weapon drops suck and my characters are too weak to do anything cool. Especially when having to do it like 2 or 3 more times to get to experiment with all 4 playable characters that are usually out at launch. Borderlands is also very slow sometimes. It gets you stuck in place, having to listen to terrible fucking dialogue, waiting for the NPCs to arrive or open a door or whatever the fuck.
Cool if I take this. Thanks, later. Oh, hey, I was just out here looting corpses. Oh wait, you're a vault hunter with Maya used to be? Go on adventures, save the universe, kill bad guys. That's me. Would you like an autograph? Yes! It's so really cool, I want to die instantly. I'm gonna be a vault hunter too. Or I would be if Maya found me more than just dusty ass life. I'm staring horribly. I'm going out. Sorry, just really bored around. So, we're gonna loot the graveyard or what? What you got, Gate? Nothing, bitch! You got nothing! Come on. Oh crap! Attention everyone! It's Captain Trudge.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents?
It would be so much better if the experience was more compact, so that we could actually experiment with other characters before feeling burnt out in a single playthrough. I think players who want to spend thousands of hours in a single game are usually looking for live services, and I do know that Borderlands has an aspect of that that's like that, but it's still not quite that. And in no way at all does any of this even translate to justify a $200 price point. Honestly, even $70 is quite a bit because, really, at the end of the day, it's just a fast food game. At least that's how I feel about it. Borderlands 2 was the last game that seemed to have any semblance of a story to tell about its world and characters that wanted players to give a damn. Borderlands 3's story was so incredibly bad that I tuned it out completely. Even while playing it now to record some footage in this video, I was already so done listening to the fucking kid and Claptrap and the villains are even worse. Don't even tell me about the fucking villains. I just wanted to get to the gameplay because at least that's engaging. And Wonderlands? Oh my god. The less said about that piece of shit, the better. Not even the gameplay made that thing bearable. So yeah, why would I want to pay so much for a popcorn game that I'm playing while watching something on my second monitor? Because the very developers themselves have, I don't know, ingrained into their minds that this franchise is supposed to not have any stories worth giving a fuck about. Throughout Borderlands 3 and the Borderlands movie last year, it was so weirdly apparent that it's like it wasn't just the guns that were supposed to be randomized, it's like everything was supposed to be randomized. The story, the characters, the dialogues, the enemies, the villains. It's like everything is just a big, meaningless randomizer box. Even here, where I'm pretty confident that I could probably snatch the game for about $50 at launch, it still feels like I'm overpaying because, again, if not for making content for YouTube, it would really just be a popcorn game. It's something that if I'm watching a podcast or I'm watching, catching up on some videos from some content creators that I like, I would grab the game and play it for a little while in the background. That's kind of how Borderlands feels. At least now, I would wish that they would change it with the next game, with Borderlands 4, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's something that has me feeling super skeptical because of this next thing that happened. So that was number 4, right? And one more thing that I forgot to mention was that there's also so many more games nowadays than ever before. And so when some games run on for so long, bloated with loads of content, something that happens is all of these games kind of begin cannibalizing each other. Every game needs sales, but there's only so much time that we ourselves have to play every new title, know what I mean? And the money is another issue because games used to be more affordable, but now you get a major release like Borderlands 4 at $70 and suddenly second thoughts enter your mind. Is it worth that much? Should I just wait a little bit? Get it for 60, get it for 50, maybe get it for 40, hell, maybe get it for even less? And then if you buy it and you're just an average Joe, you're probably done with gaming expenses for the month. And so then there we go. Games cannibalizing each other because they all want to sell at top dollar and be bloated to kingdom come to retain your attention, which often results in weaker content quality anyway. I think companies like Gearbox and so many others in the AAA space would really benefit from trying to switch their mentalities from bigger is better to one that prioritizes a more focused quality experience that isn't afraid of ending, especially with Borderlands, where if the game ended but it was a fun experience, it doesn't even mean that it's an ending. It just means that you get to start over with another character and try out another build. But whatever. One way or another, in order to make any of this work, they also have to fix their company structure to find out where are the weak spots that are basically leaking money, because 300 million for a looter shooter is absolutely insane no matter what. But now let's get to number 5, because yeah, we're not done yet. So, number 5, a few weeks ago, Randy was doing the rounds, promoting his game, doing his job. Sadly, Gearbox didn't have anybody else for that. And he ended up saying some wild shit about the game's story that frankly made no sense. In fact, it made such little sense that even the PC Gamer journalist was roasting it, and that's insanely rare. Like, Randy was going off about the story having elements of anarchy versus totalitarianism and how it's about us choosing where we want to be or whatever. Which, well, we'll get to that in a second, but this writer from PC Gamer specifically is a nutcase. For example, he wrote an entire piece on how RuneScape is far right now simply because they didn't do the whole Pride Month thing back in June. So this guy is pretty out there, and even then, he felt that this thing from Randy made no damn sense. Instead of hyping it up for him for the few things that it does allude to when it comes to, current day political nonsense. But let's go through it. So what Randy said comes from recent events that happened at Gearbox. They were one of those studios that was sold off to the Embracer Group back when Embracer was buying up a bunch of studios and IPs. Studios and IPs that they ended up killing because of their idiotic mismanagement. Thankfully for Gearbox, they ended up being repurchased by Take-Two once Embracer went down. And to this is what Randy said. When the studio sat down to write the game's story, they asked themselves, what's the zeitgeist of the environment we're in? And supposedly, he was referring to the whole situation with Gearbox. He described it as There's this cultural and emotional shift in me personally and at the studio. What does it mean to trade some autonomy for organization?
What?
What does it feel like to move up and down the scale between autonomy and being organized or even being controlled?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
On one end of a spectrum you have anarchy, and on the other end of the spectrum you have fascism, totalitarianism, zero freedom. It's not just about societies, that's all of us as individuals. To imagine where we want to be on that spectrum and how comfortable we are.
With all due respect, what the fuck are you talking about?
Brother, what the fuck are you talking about? He says they were going through that as a company, but they were just being bought by someone else, and then they ended up being sold back. Luckily too, because it could have ended up really badly. I'm gonna tell you guys what I think that this is. This is just what I think. You can say that I'm a little too schizo if you want down in the comments. After all, I have no evidence nor context right now. This is just what I think happened here, and I have two versions. Version 1 is they're serious about the Zeitgeist question. Now, for all my English as a second language audience, Zeitgeist refers to what is currently going on in the world, like what's the current cultural climate around life, what are the current trends, what's popular, what are people thinking about, what are people doing, etc. This is something that they already undoubtedly did for Borderlands 3. That's why Borderlands 3 was a goddamn cringe fest, where the writing and the humor was all over the place because all that Gearbox was worried about was how many fucking memes and references they could put into the game. I don't know who that was for. Gen Z? I know some people who are Gen Z and they don't give a fuck about any of that, so I really don't know. All I know is that this is why there was that incredibly weird focus on streamers, like Twitch streamers and influencer culture in general, baked into that game. That's why the main villains of the damn story were cringy ass parodies of streamers who couldn't shut the fuck up about their followers and their sponsors and the products that they wanted to push and all this other garbage. That is why I got brain damage while playing it, and that is also what has gone on to ruin the Borderlands identity, which was also present in the movie. Toilet humor was always a part of Borderlands, but it wasn't its only part, it wasn't its sole identity, and yet with this game, with Borderlands 3 and with the movie, that's what it became. And I don't know what it is about creatives misunderstanding their own franchises. It's the same thing going on with Fallout at Bethesda. Fallout has always had humor, but now it's like humor is its main thing. That's what's prominent throughout the entire fucking show. But anyway, so if you go ahead and you look at the zeitgeist around us right now, what we have is what a lot of games these days already have, where they try to shove in thinly veiled and at times not so thinly veiled political nonsense into the games. That PowerPoint joke at the start of the video wasn't just a joke, it was real. There really was a whole goddamn PowerPoint presentation at Gamescom about illegal immigration, because that's part of the zeitgeist nowadays. The Gamescom people, the developers of that game and their funding sources want to use video games as a platform for propaganda because of how wide-reaching it is. They say it themselves, you can read articles on it, I'm not making anything up. If anything, I'm downplaying it by a lot so that I can keep focused on the Borderlands topic. Video games are harder than ever, this is what kids spend their time on, and yeah, feel free to check out my video also on the Take Us North situation if you want more information. So it could be totally plausible that the Gearbox team is no different, and this game is going to be containing things pertaining to the current zeitgeist, which is heavily political. Politics are very hard to avoid these days, they're in everything, and so this could be what they're referring to when they mention that whole thing about where we want to be between anarchy and totalitarianism or whatever. And the reason why they are making that weird, awkward connection about Gearbox being sold could be because they're also paying attention to the environment around them and noticing that games that have these overt political themes get totally dunked on and fail because gamers are sick and tired of putting up with immersion breaking shit in their games. And so they kinda just diverted from it a bit. I don't know, it could be that, you know, because of things aren't like they used to be 2 years ago. 2 years ago you would come out and be all woked out on, you know, on Maine and, you know, on these shows, and everybody would be dancing around, and if anybody made a negative video they would swarm them and like, oh, the grifters. But now people are getting more and more sick of it, so that's usually the current sentiment online, and it fucks games up. But anyway, that's just option 1. Option 2 is much simpler. Randy is politically brain-rotted, which is not an option, this is a fact, we've seen it before with many of his antics, and is trying to associate his game's story to the current politically brain-rotted Zeitgeist in order to make it sound trendy and farm points with game journalists who love these kinds of buzzwords and themes. If that's the case, he definitely failed. One way or another, or some third option of course, because I could be totally wrong about both of them, I will say this: there's nothing wrong with making games that are based on these kinds of elements. Politics themselves are not an inherently bad thing to use for inspiration or as writing devices for story or world building. We see some games make excellent use of them, such as Metal Gear Solid for instance, and many more. This isn't new, this isn't unique, it's been around for years. However, these were games that wanted first and foremost to just be video games and tell excellent stories. Games made by actual artists and game developers who respected the IPs that they were working on and respected the medium as a whole. People who weren't idiots and knew that the main purpose of a game is to entertain. It's to sell its players escapism and fun, not political messaging. And nowadays the industry is way different, and the kind of people working at major studios are the opposite. It's people who loudly and proudly advertise that what they want is to make games political. It's what they teach them to do at things like the Game Developers Conference. So if this is the case and they are focusing on these things to make this new game story, it's very hard to trust that they're actually going to be able to do a good job of it. One where they actually tell a great story using these themes, rather than one where they're just brute forcing their worldview in blatant ways just to mock, belittle, or outright demonize people who are either right-wing, centrist, or left-leaning, but you know, without the derangement. At the end of the day, we just want games to be games again. I hope Borderlands doesn't forget that. Not just because of what we want as gamers, but also because of how unfitting realistic contemporary shit would be in a game like Borderlands where not even the graphics are grounded. With Borderlands 3 they tried to do this solely with humor and it still didn't work. Now imagine it with serious shit. But anyway, lastly, and so that we end this video on a positive note, we have number 6, which is the latest thing that I saw from this idiot, and it was a 2-hit combo that made himself and his game look like ass. One of the things Borderlands fans can agree on is that the Borderlands movie that came out last year was terrible. Just awful. Beyond awful even, like oh my god, I can't even allow myself to just say bad, my body twists and turns in discomfort, I'm feeling it right now, my skin is wrinkling up, like holy fuck that was a bad movie. But so anyway, in another recent Gamescom talk/interview with The Gamer, an adequately awful games journalist outlet, Randy said that even though the Borderlands film was bad, it would have been way worse if he directed it. Actually, let me rephrase this. He only says the Borderlands film would have been way worse if he directed it. He doesn't say the film is bad. But I just assume that that's what the conversation was about and precisely what was being alluded to, because this trash bag of a games journalist outlet did not include the fucking first part of the conversation. I have no idea how they got there. What I do have an idea of is that this is the only context that fits in here. But it was redacted because obviously he can't be seen talking shit about his own property. Like, it's the only way it makes sense. Like, oh, if I had directed it, it would have been way worse. You know, like, you have to be talking about, like you know, you have to be like, the question was probably, so that's that Borderlands movie was pretty fucked up, wasn't it? I mean, critical and commercial failure there, Mr. Pitchford. What do you think? Oh, you know, if it was me, it probably would have been way worse. Like, that's the only way that shit makes sense. And I mean, everybody knows that it was dog shit. Like, why are we even talking? Why am I even saying this? It's literally just for, like, if somebody comes into the comments like, actually, that's not what he said. You know, like, what else would they be talking about? Fucking spaghetti? But anyway, let's move on. So basically what we have here is a man who is doing the rounds at Gamescom, promoting his game, talking to the biased games media that never asks a single serious question, you know, maybe meeting some fans, hopefully they're not too young though, or magicians for that matter, gotta be careful with those, and in this process to entice people to buy his video game, a game that he is heavily involved with in terms of development, he expresses how shit he is at his job. It just is what it is, you know, you really can't make this kind of stuff up, man. I swear, Randy Pitchford is just a gift that keeps on giving. And I don't know what it is about him. I think it's because he's always such a goofy guy, always either laughing, lying, or coping, but with a smile on his face, that is just difficult to hate him and fire him and get him out of the way. Like, even when he's mad, he's funny. Like, for instance, not too long ago, he was called out for Borderlands 4 trailer. He said that somebody didn't like the trailer, said that the game looked too samey or whatever, and this is what Randy hit back with. Sorry, don't need this energy right now as the team and I bust our ass to make Borderlands 4 the best Borderlands game yet. I'm going to block you in a day or so after you've had a chance to see this. Nothing against you or your opinion, just shouldn't expose myself to this now. Sorry. Oops. I guess I can just mute you. I'm doing that now. I hope I remember to unmute when we're done. If you see me, please remind me to unmute. No block again. Sorry. Nothing against you. Just... I just love this so much, dude. Like, he's so ass mad right now, but he still can't help being like this. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe this behavior. It's just so funny. He's so mad, but it's like he's got PTSD from his past controversies. So he's trying his best not to crash out. So he's just in there like, sorry, but I'm gonna block you now. Sorry, nothing against you. I'm just not gonna listen to this right now. Sorry, I'm gonna mute you now. If you see me, please remind me to unmute you later. Okay, sorry. I gotta go watch some magic to calm down now. And to close off now, just a few final words, and also addressing some of the people talking about this game recently, whether it be on social media or some videos. I see some people thinking that this game is going to flop, just as it was with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I would really urge you guys to not expect that. There are some factors that are putting this game in a very challenging position, but there's also quite a bit of it that looks pretty good when it comes to the stuff that matters most to Borderlands players, which are the gameplay improvements. Borderlands 3, for example, was a huge hit despite how terrible the damn story was. Regardless of that, there was a lot of hype for the game because of the loyalty from the fanbase, although granted, a lot of that loyalty was earned through Borderlands 2 and how good that game was in several aspects. But they also worked hard and did a great job getting the gunplay to feel good. I'm still one of the people who believes that Borderlands 3 was actually outdated. The game came out in 2019 and the most notable gameplay improvement aside from the weapon handling was the ability to slide and the ability to climb onto surfaces. Despite this, it was 2019, so I was disappointed and felt that the game's movement should have been more advanced and got us more dynamic ways to move around in that wacky and dynamic world. Maybe even some verticality too, which they finally did now in Borderlands 4 with jetpacks, grappling hooks, gliding, etc. But anyway, despite this stuff on the movement side, Borderlands 3 actually got a huge step up in the gameplay front. Weapons felt great to handle, enemies and bugs felt great to kill, there was a lot of loot, so on and so forth. Game also got a huge marketing push, potentially even bigger than what we're seeing right now, or at least it feels like it. Like, I see Borderlands 4 getting adverts on like Times Square and Hollywood Boulevard, but I really don't care. Spider-Man 2 got a bunch of shit like this as well, and the game barely broke even. And they both have something in common. They both cost upwards of $300 million to make. That's one of the things that Borderlands 4 has going against it. Too goddamn expensive to make. But anyway, all this just to say that despite the story and writing sucking huge nuts in Borderlands 3, it still managed to sell very well. So if we go back to that whole part where I talked about the stuff that worries me about the story and writing in Borderlands 4, it honestly might not matter at all to those buying. If it did, I think Borderlands 3 would have flopped as well. I think that what people are mostly interested in is the gameplay, and on that front, what Borderlands 4 looks like is just more Borderlands, and that might be enough for its fanbase. Enough that I don't think it's going to flop in the way that we've seen others doing. What maybe could happen is something akin to Assassin's Creed Shadows, where it's kind of like a flop. Not exactly a flop, but kind of like one, because despite all of the player numbers, something just isn't working out when it comes to profits, and Ubisoft is in big financial trouble regardless. Borderlands 4 was so expensive to make that it really needs a huge number of sales in order to clear a profit and please investors, which explains Randy Pitchford's desperation in the past few weeks. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. Borderlands 3 was very unpredictable to me. I ended up selling my copy. I was legitimately bummed when I got it. I was drowning in a sea of cringe, so I sold it very quickly and I only bought it again years later on a sale for $10. Yet, I was clearly the minority because the game made $1 billion in about a year. Also worth remembering that Borderlands 3 is not their last game. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is, and that's legitimately one of the worst things that I have ever played. Even the gameplay didn't make up for it. Oh, and I didn't mention it before, but it's also pretty caked with that aforementioned cringe that game development activists like to pump into games. And so, I don't know, man, I just have a bad feeling with this game and I might be giving it a shot. I'm definitely curious enough, if for nothing else than to be the source of information for others like yourselves, that I desperately needed back when I was watching YouTube videos to figure out whether or not to buy Wonderlands. I genuinely ended up feeling very deceived by the channels that I checked out. But with that said, I'd also like to know down in the comments if this is something that those of you watching right now would be interested in the first place. Because obviously it's a large game, it's probably going to be way too goddamn big given the comments from Randy Pitchford that it would be worth $200, so that's probably a big commitment when I could be playing and covering something else instead, like Dying Light the Beast, or these other smaller games like Chronos, The New Dawn, and Hell Is Us. It's not that I won't play those, I will 100% play those because I'm actually genuinely interested in them, even if it wasn't for the channel. It's just that it's going to take me longer to get to them. Also, maybe you guys have a different perspective? I mean, shit, I'm talking a whole bunch of smack here, but maybe some of you think that the game is good and I'm just being too paranoid with my own PTSD with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and the cringe storyline of Borderlands 3. Well, again, let me know down in the comment section. Honestly, fellas, I love talking about games I enjoy, but I also miss a good roasting every now and then. I know we got The Outer Worlds 2 later this year, which is looking like quite the dish given how boned Avowed was, but you know, Borderlands may deliver as well if it's anything like the third game, and oh my god, the delivery is going to be glorious if it's anything like the fucking Tiny Tina Wonderlands game. Though honestly, I just wish that Borderlands would rise above all of this garbage and take itself more seriously again. We can still have humor, but just don't be retarded. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. One way or another, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, giving it a like helps me bunches, and yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.